You're in big trouble, though, pal. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No.
Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast of Champions, Season 1, Episode 11.
We made it.
11sies. That's like second breakfast, right?
Yeah, definitely second breakfast.
Yeah. So welcome to Season 1, Second Breakfast. We're coming to you live from center once again. It's early in the morning. Mm-hmm. This gentleman's probably had like 3 hours of sleep. Yes. And yeah, so it's going to be a fun one. Roaring.
No caffeine. 3 hours of sleep. You're gonna go on this delirious ride with me.
Go ahead. I was gonna take a sip of this Dr. B here.
Dr. B, HEB, please sponsor us. Also put more HEBs in Fort Worth and not just outlying areas. I don't think we've ever said like what I do, because we're at center and
that's true.
We talk about that, but
talk about what I do.
We talk about Ray's Burgers. We did the live from Ray's, which I've gotten some good feedback on that.
Yeah.
But then I moonlight by working in a movie theater, and today is the day after Deadpool came out. And it was insane. And I also worked at Ray's Burgers yesterday, and that was insane. So yeah, if you're listening to this or if you're watching it, I'm staring into your soul right now. I am very delirious right now. I got home about 3:30. By the time I wound down, it was about 5. And then I got up at 8 to be here with Renee. And Renee's been here since 7:30.
Yeah, something like that. And today's going to be my long day. I'm going to be the zombie later. So yeah, we both wear a lot of hats. So
I'm wearing one right now in case you're not watching the video.
Hold on. Okay. Got him. So yeah, if you don't know us personally, you just know us via the podcast, then you don't know, but Parker does the movie theater, he does Ray's Burgers, he's a dad, he's a hubby, he's a friend, he also has like music projects that he does. No?
Yeah,
I thought that was a thing.
It is a thing,
it's always
but
a thing.
There's always music happening somewhere.
And then me, I work here at Center. During the school year, I teach music at Montessori School, and I also DJ and do the podcast now.
Yeah.
So
podcast is a big part of my life. This is becoming my personality.
Yeah. I'm constantly looking for content for the podcast.
Same.
So just keeping it 100 this week. We are broke AF, so we don't have any breakfast to review. So we're going to just talk about breakfast and imagine having a really good breakfast this morning.
I would love to have a good breakfast right now.
Yeah. So I see you put on your English breakfast.
Yeah. I just kind of threw some ideas in there and into the notes.
I too yesterday was looking for like, what should we talk about? And that's kind of how I landed on acai bowls, but I did do some research on the English breakfast, and I thought like we should talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to England, so I guess I've never had a proper English breakfast, but growing up, my aunts lived in Portland, and they had a couple of really good English like pub restaurants. Mm-hmm. And a couple of them did proper English breakfast. So when I was like 10 or 12 years old, I got to have one. And I remember just blowing my mind. I was like, there's baked beans. Hell yeah. There's sausage. Hell yeah. There's eggs. Hell yeah. Like just the whole concept of it was like similar, but totally different than like what I was used to. Again, growing up majority in the Midwest and like South, my breakfasts were usually like scrambled eggs and biscuits and gravy, pancakes, all that. So like, having this like mushrooms and sliced tomatoes and everything was really wild to me. And and I loved it. But I was also tricked into eating something that grossed my mom out really bad.
Was it the bread pudding?
Blood pudding.
I meant.
But on the menu it said black pudding, and
Black pudding.
my aunt got it, which it's funny now. My aunt has been vegan for like 10 years or something now. But back when I was a kid, neither of my aunts were vegan, and they would eat like rabbit at Christmas time and like, or maybe rabbit on Easter and duck on Christmas. I don't know. They had a bunch of like weird traditions around food, and now like they're super duper vegan. It's real cool, but yeah, my aunt like had the black pudding, and she's like, "Oh, you should try it." And I'm like 10 years old, somewhere between 10 and 12, and my mom was just sitting there. My mom is kind of a picky eater, and she's just like, "Hey, that's really gross. Don't do it. Don't do it." And I was like, "Oh, no, I want to try it. It's black pudding. Like, I love pudding." And like, I was starting to go into like my emo goth phase of being a preteen, and I was like, black pudding sounds fucking awesome.
Black Parade, black pudding.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
This was a long time before Black Parade
t-shirts.
came out. Black t-shirts, yes. Black jeans,
Black
yes.
bands.
But yeah, so I took a bite of it. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And my aunt ended up like splitting it with me, like giving me the rest of it. My mom was like mortified. And then after I'd finished eating it, she tells me what it is.
Blood.
Yeah. And I was pretty disgusted when she told me.
So in my mind, I've been like, I guess kind of recently thinking a lot about like history timelines. And like when you grow up, you think like, man, this is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, but then you realize like, wait, it's just been about 100 years, not like.
Yeah.
So in my mind, full English breakfast comes from like kings feasting. You know what I mean? Like,
okay, yeah.
Medieval times, like bring everything to the
bring
table.
me the baked beans.
Yeah. Like bring everything you have for breakfast. We're feasting, right? But I guess what I didn't know is that it actually didn't. It wasn't very popular until the turn of the century, 1896.
Really? Okay, wow.
So, like right around 1900 or so, this lady called Mrs. Beeton wrote a book called The Book of Household Management, and so this book, this lady was like she was rich. She was married to somebody that was a publisher. So she basically got her book published because her husband was the publisher. But this book became kind of like the Miss Parker's like how to run a household like, type book, like Dear
is this
Abby
kind of
type
like
shit.
Oh man, I already forgot that fighter's name, with the Brazilian wife or whatever that took her last
Ian Machado Gary?
Yeah, is this like her book about like how to
be a wag? Yeah, kind of. It's like that.
The 1898 version of that.
Yeah. Now, what's funny, last night, Allie was telling me about, there's like, I guess this big popular trad wife movement going on. And there's like this lady that's like the face of it, but it's just like, she's just Mormon. And they're just kind of just trying to hide the fact that they're Mormon. But, very like, like similar thing. Like, let's, this is the book of how to like, it's right here. Like some of the graphics, the design, and the pictures are like amazing.
Those are really awesome.
And like the book is very cool. Miss Beaton is compared on the strength of the book with the modern quote unquote domestic goddess like Nigella Lawson or Delia Smith. So I think I read so here goes. 2 million copies were sold between 1868 and when it was published. Were sold by 1968 or 1868. Ugh, sorry.
Oh, 1868. Wow.
1868.
Okay.
So yeah, it was published in 1861.
Okay,
7 years. In 7 years, 2 million copies, and
that's
so,
probably before the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah. So it basically here we go, 60,000 copies in the first year.
Wow.
And then 2 million by 1968. It was like a household management book, you know, and it had 74 chapters and over 2,000 pages.
Jeez.
But it basically took recipes and just different things on how to like, how to properly prepare fish. And, like it would show you like,
well, that's a lot of pages just to tell you to boil all your food. That's what all British food is, right? It's just boiled.
Yeah,
it's either bangers and mash or boiled, or it comes from a tin.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I'm sorry if anyone from England is listening to this or watching this, and I did not mean to offend you. I love
be offensive, because here's the thing.
But Chip Shop.
Here's the thing. This lady that wrote this book that became so like infamously like popular, and like to this day, this is the reason why English people eat full English breakfast, is because in this book, her thing was like, the ideal breakfast is this. And
every food group.
Yeah, everything. But here's the thing. She plagiarized all of her recipes.
No.
Yeah.
Where'd she get them from?
She, it says, let's see here. One of her acquaintances, actually, Miss Henrietta Marie Pourtois, advised her that it's a science that's only learned by long experience and years of study, which of course you have not had. She wrote her in a letter.
Damn.
Therefore, my advice would be to compile a book from recipes from a variety of the best books published on cookery, and heaven knows there is a great variety for you to choose from. The recipes were largely copied from the most successful cookbooks of the day, the copying in several cases unacknowledged in the text. So she would she basically gathered all of the best cookbooks of the day and then took the best recipes and then copied them and then put them in her book. So she was the original like P. Diddy. She like remixed people's, she's like, take that. And then,
oh man.
But they even, I read that it says Mrs. Beaton couldn't cook, but she could copy. That's what the New York Times said about her plagiarism.
That's wild.
It says in that same New York Times article that her first recipe for the Victorian sponge was so inept that she left out the eggs in the recipe. How could you make a sponge without the eggs? Like, that's one of the most integral parts of the sponge. But she was so bad at copying that she forgot the eggs and published a recipe for a sponge without the eggs. So,
wow.
English people, you are living a lie.
But your breakfast is delicious.
Your breakfast is delicious, but it's all compiled from plagiarism and lies from the 1800s.
So that means she didn't actually create the original English breakfast.
Correct. She just lifted it from another. We have to figure out.
All right, we'll have to do some sleuthing for next week.
That's the deep dive.
All right.
I already deep dove, but we got to go deep. We got to Mariana Trench
down,
that bitch and figure out
down the rabbit hole.
Which book? So
taking both the red and blue pill to find out. Says
the variety of books she used are Eliza Acton's Modern Cookery for Private Families, an English bread book by Elizabeth Rafford called The Experienced English Housekeeper, Marie Antoine Kermes's La Pâtisserie Royale Parisienne. So obviously
I think that just means let them eat cake.
No.
Oh,
okay. That's the Royal Parisian pastry book. La Pâtisserie Royale Parisienne. It's like,
let them eat cake.
Louis Eustache, what a name. Eustache. Ude's The French Cook. Alexis Sawyer's The Modern Housewife or Menagerie. And Hannah Glass's The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy. So she just like basically took everybody's shit and then put it into this book. And then this book sold like a bajillion copies. And now everybody in England and Ireland eats full English breakfast for breakfast.
Damn. Do you think Conor McGregor eats that for breakfast?
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure the yacht has
with
that.
With a giant side of
cocaine. If yacht has gym, yacht has kitchen as well. Did you see that tweet?
No. So, I'm not on Twitter.
Somebody, well, yeah, neither am I really. I run a couple of Twitter accounts, but I'm not on Twitter. I'm on X.
I'm not on X either.
No. In this build up for this fight, somebody accused him of being on a yacht too much and not being in the gym, and he just tweeted "Yacht has gym." That's all. That's it. So yeah, I don't think he's ever going to fight again, guys.
That's amazing.
So
he's never leaving the yacht unless they bring the octagon to the yacht.
Somebody did ask, does yacht have octagon though?
UFC, whatever, 315 straight from the yacht.
So English breakfast, that's kind of my spiel on that. I've never had it personally.
Okay.
I've never tried blood pudding. I've never had anything like that.
I'm sure there's somewhere around here we can get an English breakfast.
If you know where to get full English breakfast in the DFW area, contact us at 682-294-0101 or you can call us, or you can email us at breakfastofchampspod@gmail.com. So you have on here favorite regional breakfast items.
I mean, I mostly put 3 ideas. We could pick one to talk about.
I'm down. Let's talk about it. So when I go back east, like in the summertime, the big like thing over there is like Scrapple. Ugh.
You've mentioned Scrapple. You sent me a picture of Scrapple. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. When we have Allie on, she's going to cook it it's sitting in her freezer waiting for her episode. She's going to cook it for us and we'll have it. But one of the things that I personally enjoy that's like really kind of corny is Wawa. It's a convenience store / gas station it's a
magical place.
Pennsylvania, Maryland area, all the way down to like Florida now, I think.
Yeah, I went to one in Tampa last year.
So they have a bunch of different things that you can get there. For you non-East Coasters, Wawa is kind of like a QT, like here in Texas. It's kind of like a bigger QT. It's like a mix between a QT and like a less steroided Buc-ee's kind of. They have like a touch screen that you can order sandwiches, hot foods, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. They also have just your regular convenience store fare. So, the big old long coolers with drinks. And but what I like to do in the mornings is I usually get they have these things called Sizzlies. And they're like, they have those warm stations where they just have like stuff you can pick off of.
Love that shit.
So they have Sizzlies, or they have bagels, sausage, bacon, or anything you want on it. They have different varieties in a big warm container, and people just come and grab. I want bacon today, or I want this today, or whatever. So I usually grab a Sizzly, and usually some sort of sweet cake. Because they have on one side of the pastry cart, they have all of the Entenmann's, single serve Entenmann's. And then on the other side, they have all of the single serve tasty cakes, which is like my favorite.
Yeah, tasty cakes are so good.
Usually I'll get some sort of sweet cake from Tasty Cake single serve, a Sizzly. And then for some reason, their coffee is unmatched, unparalleled. So like gas station coffee is like usually like, gas station coffee, but theirs is really good. So I'm not a huge coffee guy, but whenever I go to Wawa, I usually like their coffee. They have their like little coffee station. It has like a cooler, and it's got half and half, heavy whip, milk, 2%, 1%, skip. Like it's got every dairy option that is there, and it's cold and it's ready to be used. They've got like mini marshmallows. They've got like anything you could do to like dude up your coffee. Super good.
Wawa, please come to Texas. Also sponsor the podcast, please.
So I know that that's not like a regional breakfast thing, but that's a regional thing for my family when we go back home to Maryland to visit my wife's family. We also have a like a timeshare in Ocean City. And there's a Wawa just like everywhere. So we're just like, that's one of the first places we stop. That's probably, we also, whenever we have family go back and forth, it was like, would you want something from Wawa on the way home? So, because they have like Hers cheese doodles with Old Bay and just like anything you can think of. So we usually get a box of Tasty Cakes and bring some big bag of Hers cheese doodles and that stuff. That's not super breakfasty, but it's Wawa.
Yeah. When I went to Wawa in Tampa, I was kind of let down because I was used to the ones in like the Northeast more. And the one in Tampa, it was similar to like a racetrack here. It wasn't very big. It was very clean, but it also didn't have as much stuff in it. I was like so excited because I hadn't been to a Wawa in a long time. And I went in and I was just like, oh, this is like any other gas station. Like, I can still order the food, but like, it wasn't cram packed full of all the goodies that the Northeast has. And, but yeah, like I remember Wawa being like a mythical place when my friends like first started touring in the Northeast and stuff, like them coming home and telling the tales of Wawa and Sheets and
Royal Farms.
Gotta make the stop on the road trip.
Yeah. That's a big thing up there too now is like, are you a Wawa person or a Royal Farms person? Because Royal Farms is kind of similar, but they're more chicken heavy.
Okay.
They do like fried chicken, like you know, around here, like, if you go to like a potluck, somebody's always bringing like a big old thing of Costco fried chicken or whatever. Similar to that, you go to Royal Farms and you're like, I need 20 pieces of chicken.
And it's a gas station?
And it's a gas station.
Shit.
And they do fried chicken. They have like chicken tenders, chicken sandwiches, and that sort of thing. But it's also like touchscreen, gas station, coolers for drinks, chips, that whole thing. And so
gas stations are the future.
Dude, I mean, what else could you need? You just need like the main thing. Whether it's a sandwich or like chicken or whatever, and then like let Frito-Lay and everybody else handle the sides. And Coca-Cola handle the beverage, and you don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
Go to Ray's and
get a burger, and then let Coca-Cola and I don't know. We got fries. Yeah, we got onion rings.
Yeah, you got things.
You know what? Actually, I sold 2 shrimp baskets this week.
How was that?
Looked fucking good as shit. So it was, I was running out of stuff. So people were buying stuff that wasn't on the menu because I ran out of burger stuff. It was crazy.
Have you ever been to like tropical Mexico, like Tulum, Cancun, anywhere like that?
No. I've been to Cabo.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because, like back, you know, we always talk vegan stuff, but like, in Tulum, especially, everything there is very vegan and organic and very healthy. And so regional breakfast in Mexico and like the tropical area.
It's like super fruit heavy, right?
Yeah. You're going to get a lot of, so they're actually like right there on the mangrove. So mangoes are usually readily available and fresh at any given point in time down there. So you're going to have fresh mango for breakfast usually. They do a lot of like, bowls.
Okay.
They have fruit bowls, that sort of thing. Smoothie bowls, acai bowls, that sort of thing for breakfast. Cause you got a lot of people out there that are going to be out on the beach and doing all that stuff all day. So
like refreshing.
Yeah. You want something cold and refreshing, but a little bit heavy and that sort of thing. So, I always liked going down there with the kids cause it's fun to see them like get different stuff for breakfast and they get to try different things and they're just like, oh, dragon fruit? What is this? You know, or whatever. I have pictures of like Faye just like eating all of the watermelon, everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
A lot of fruit heavy stuff and a lot of what's around. Yeah. So, there's coconuts all around. So you're going to get a lot of like coconut water and, coconut meat and that sort of shavings and sort of.
I love coconut, anything.
The place that we usually stay at when we go to Tulum is actually a yoga retreat. It's kind of a cool story of how we got there. It's called Shambhala Petit. So the first time we went to Tulum, Allie booked us this place called like El Cosmico or some shit like that.
I think I've heard of it.
That's like a usual name for like a resort, or it's also someplace in Austin. There's a place called, or in Marfa.
Marfa, yeah. I'm thinking Marfa.
It's called like Cosmic something. It was something cosmic. Anyway. So first time to Tulum, we've got our pretty newish, youngish kid Rhodes with us. Oh. And, so we get there and, we also have, Madison and Truman with us. And so we have 2 kids plus a baby. And, so when you can't get directly to Tulum, you have to fly into Cancun, I think, or Playa del Carmen or something. You have to fly into a connecting city and then you have to either take a shuttle or rent a car and then drive like an hour and 15, hour and 30 to get to Tulum proper.
Okay.
And so the first time we did it, we rented a car and that was cool. It was nice having your own like get around, totally. Whatever. But the thing that's shitty is once you like leave that town, it just becomes like dirt roads and like crooked cops.
Yeah. I've heard lots of stories of those.
Yeah. So, and then when you have kids, it's kind of like a little bit weirder. They don't understand like, oh, you just give this cop some money and he just leaves you alone, right off. But, so yeah, the first time we we get the car, we get the GPS and of course, in, Mexico, they don't care about like this car seat has an expiration date.
Yeah.
This car seat is not meant for this size child. Like when you're like, I have a baby and I need a baby car seat. They're just like, here's a booster.
Yeah, no.
Good luck.
We went to Cabo when Ava was 2 and it was literally just, oh yeah, just hop in the car.
Yeah.
Just get in the car and go. And we're like, she's fine. We're like, all right.
Yeah. So we finally got what Allie thought was like safe for roads, and we get on our way. We get all the way to Tulum, and we get to where this like not resort, like kind of hotel Airbnb-ish kind of place is, and there's just nothing. And we're like, all right, well, did we get the address wrong? Like, does anybody around here know? Most everybody speaks Spanish, plus our cell phones don't really work like that. Oh, no. So, you know what I mean? We had just gotten there. So we were just like, shit. So we went back to like the main store and try to like WhatsApp or like Facebook message or Instagram message the place, and just got nothing back in return. So we're like, maybe we just missed it. So like we went back again, and then we finally like, we see the sign, and there's just like a huge like padlock and chains. And then like we like look kind of behind the sign and into like the tree line, and like there's places that you could stay, but it looks like they're either like had been like they're in the process of being torn down and rebuilt, or they're in the process of being built and not finished. And so we're like, what are we going to do? And so right next to that place, so on the beach, it's like resort, you know, and they have them, you know, kind of like that. So the very next little plot of land next door is Shambhala Petit. And so like, we have no clue what we're doing. We just kind of like, hello, you know? And so this very nice man came out. His name is Roberto Hernandez. So Roberto, if you're out there, if you happen to be catching this podcast, thank you for helping our family that day. He came out and was like, hey, what's going on? And we're like, we have a reservation to stay at this place right there. And he's like, yeah, no, they're gone. They basically, there had been some things happening in Mexico where like, what happened was they were trying to standardize like security on the beach. And these people didn't want to play ball with the government as far as like having the government security guards. And then also I think they were playing like loose and fast with like permits and shit. They were just like, oh, this is Mexico. No one gives a shit. But actually Mexico does give a shit. And so they ran out of time and ran out of money and just stopped building and left.
Oh my god.
And so they just left whatever they had there. And whoever had booked reservations were just fucked, I guess.
That's insane.
They didn't tell us. They didn't like give us any warning or like give us our fucking money back or anything like that. So he's like, I know them. I've contacted with them. I've got like direct contact with them. I've got a phone that works here. Like, I'll help you guys out. Try to get you guys in contact. And we're just like, he sees that we have children with us, and he's just like, so what are you guys going to do? And we're just like, I don't know. I guess we're going to try to figure out another place to stay or like whatever. I mean, we literally have 5 days in Mexico. So what are we going to do? You know, He's like, look, I run a resort here. Obviously you see, he's like, it's the off season for me and I don't have anybody here. He's like, I'll give you a room and I'll help you guys out. I'll like make it like semi-affordable for you guys.
That's awesome.
And he's like, in the meantime, he's like, just relax with your kids. He's like, just park, get your stuff out, and just go relax on the beach with your kids. And he's like, this is your vacation. You shouldn't have to be stressed out about this. He's like,
solid
at the very least I can do is offer you a place to relax, find a plan. If you want to stay here, you can stay here. If you don't, no problem, but I'll help you. So, like,
shout out to that
dude. I still have his number in my phone. Like,
let's text him and see what he's doing now.
I know what he's doing. Yeah. So, we get there and he literally has no one. He's got maybe like 10 or 15 cabins, cabañas, you know, and they've got like a full staff of people there, but because it's the off season, they're just kind of doing their thing, doing nothing, you know? And so I think they were happy to have somebody there.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like, as soon as we got there, like the two ladies that were running the kitchen, like brought our kids drinks and snacks and like cold fucking coconut drink and like, you know, just whatever they had fruit wise laying around, snack wise, they brought it out to us. And, just, you know, lovely, kind, for no fucking good reason people, you know, and, we wound up making the decision to stay there. We're like, well, this is so far it's nice.
Yeah.
You know, the people here are nice. They're at least going to help us. We'll figure out whatever it costs later or whatever. So that wound up being like the best place you could ever stay.
That's so awesome.
So he like, I don't want to give out too much of his personal life, but he has a kid that comes and visits from time to time and was around the same age as our kids.
Okay.
And so it was like he was staying there with his kid and we were staying there with our kids.
Oh,
and
that's
then,
awesome.
So like in the morning, we'd all meet for breakfast. That was the one meal that he provides.
Okay.
It's just breakfast. But cereal, granola, yogurt, fruit, eggs, you know, oatmeal, like anything that you can think of, tea, coffee, freshly squeezed fruit juices. And I mean, it was just like, we'd all meet and sit at the same table like we were all one big family and just have breakfast and talk about what we're going to do for the day. And then the kids would, inevitably the kids are playing, you know, because they don't want to have breakfast fully, you know, and we're sitting talking and they're just playing over here and in the sand and stuff like that. And so one of the most magical times and things that I've ever experienced. But yeah, the reason I wanted to talk about that is because that's the only like breakfast like thing that I can think of. But a lot of acai bowls were had in Tulum. That's kind of like the first time I had like a honest to goodness acai bowl. Also, when we go to our condo area in Ocean City, in Fenwick Island, Delaware, there's a place called High Tide, and they have the best coffee and some of the best acai bowls I've ever had. So that's one of our favorite breakfast spots besides Wawa. Is High Tide.
When you're wanting something a little bit healthier than Wawa.
Yeah. And just good espresso, you know, again, you know, baseline espresso, so everything that's the secret. If you get the shot of espresso and that's good, everything else on the menu is going to be good because it's built off of that shot. Exactly. So they have really good espresso there, and their acai bowls are like bomb.com. So
I don't know if I've ever had it. I might have had an acai bowl, but I'm not sure if I have.
Once we get money again, we're going to have mamaka for acai bowls for a breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Joe was telling us about that.
Mamaka, whenever I started working here, I legit was getting it like every day for like 2 weeks straight. So much so that they started recognizing my name on the DoorDash and started writing me little notes on the bag. And they're like drawing me pictures and like hearts and like, thanks for the order, because I was ordering it every day. But I was like, yesterday when I was thinking about like, what are we going to talk about today? I was like, well, where did the acai bowls like come from? You know what I mean? Like it just like, boom, it exploded. You know, it was one of those things where, and also like, is it a breakfast food or whatever? Or is it just kind of like a snack or like whatever? So I did a deep dive into acai bowls and it freaking hit me in the face, dude. Like a freaking karate chop or right hook or like, it hit me in the face, dude. I never put two and two together. So I was reading this, and this is let me just read this to you real quick, so that way you can have the same experience that I did yesterday. I was like, where does acai even come from?
What's the deal with smoothie bowls?
Exactly.
That would have been interesting movie if they did smoothie bowls instead of cereal brands in that movie starring Jerry Seinfeld. I can never remember the name of. Frosted.
So in the early 1970s, frozen acai pulp began to travel from the Amazon to northern Brazilian cities. In the 80s, it was legendary Brazilian jiu-jitsu founder Carlos Gracie who popularized the acai bowl in southern cities like Rio de Janeiro. The Gracie family is the one that brought the acai bowl to the United States of America.
Holy shit. So it all ties in perfectly.
Like I was like, wait a minute, the Gracie family? And then I was like, duh. They had this like whole like in the 80s, because they really revolutionized like how people saw like martial arts as far as like it being a more of a lifestyle and more of like a community lifestyle. And so they put out the Gracie diet. And one of the components of the Gracie diet was the acai bowl in the morning.
That's wild.
And so the reason that like acai bowls are so popular is because Brazilians were bringing the acai bowls, and the reason that they're acai bowls is because the pulp, once you like grind it up, you have like 24 hours to use it, otherwise it rots.
Oh, whoa.
And so they have to freeze it. And so once they froze it, they had it in like savory components or whatever. But once it's frozen, you can ship it. And so now that it's frozen, it can last longer and you can ship it. Well, once it's frozen, you can just put it a little bit of honey and a little bit of fruits and blend it up and make a smoothie bowl. And so it was one of those things where I was like, fuck, violence brought acai bowls to the world, really.
Yoga
because
moms everywhere love it because of the gentle art.
So I started like thinking about it as far as like, okay, well, the Gracie family was the one that kind of like, I don't know if you know this, but like, so UFC 1 was Hoist Gracie was the one that won UFC 1. He won 1-1. And you know Pete Holmes, the comedian?
I know the name.
He has these funny, like, he's a silly comedian. Like, that's his thing, is he doesn't care if...
Just a silly little guy.
Like, he loves to laugh at himself, and he also doesn't care if you don't think that what he thinks is funny. He's just going to do it anyway. But, like, on some of his earlier specials, he had, like, he just thought more beers, Pierce, was funny, just the way that it sounds. Like, 4 more beers, Pierce. And he would just say it over and over. And then, like, the second special was... He's like, I have another one. He's like, I just left saying this in the shower. We won. Like you're trying to tell your friend Juan that you won one. So he's just shouting, Juan, we won. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack. But yeah, so acai bowls.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hoist Gracie won UFC 1, but what I was kind of thinking about is like the history of acai bowls and how it ties into the history of the UFC. So the Gracie family tree is very spread out. They've got several fathers, brothers, cousins, grandkids that, you know, are famous in their own rights for different things. Hoist was the one that won UFC 1 in 1993. But their father, Horion Gracie, was the one that actually brought the idea to Art Davie, who is the like kind of like a sports entrepreneur.
Right.
Like he's always like looking for new things. Once he was done with the UFC, he created this thing called X-Arm, which is this new sport where it was combining arm wrestling and Muay Thai kickboxing.
I've actually seen that.
Yeah, that was his thing after the UFC. So, but he was the one that had like the money and the connections to set something up in the United States. And Horion was the one that had like the experience and his family.
Yeah.
And also, so what was going on in the 80s is Vale Tudo was this thing. Basically, that is just the way that translated is no holds bar. There's no rules. And so Vale Tudo in Brazil, these things were becoming popular because it was like brutally violent. You know, there's no holds challenges, you know, and so the reason that it kind of gained in its popularity is because the Gracies had this thing called the Gracie Challenge, and basically anybody from any martial art could come to their gym and challenge them because they wanted to display that their brand of jiu-jitsu is the best fighting technique in the world. And so oftentimes you would have these closed door matches with the Gracies, and they would just show you that jiu-jitsu was the shit. But then they started
struggle cuddles for everybody.
Yeah, they started entering these Vale Tudo shits, and instead of it being like crazy violent, they were just submitting everybody, and they started promoting it and making like videotapes that they would sell. And so it kind of like became underground popular in the United States, especially with like martial artists and stuff like that. But then that's when Horion and Art Davie came up with the idea of having this tournament. And so in Brazil, the reason that Vale Tudo was popular and had gone long is because they actually had them as part of like their circuses and like their traveling circuses.
That's interesting.
And so as part of like the displays is they would have like fighting displays, and you would usually have like a Gracie that would travel and show people.
Did they keep the Gracie in a cage like the animals and release them?
Exactly. So I think circuses is the word that we use, but it's more like a traveling. Like,
I know like in Mexico, a circus, there's like they don't have animals in the circus, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm sure in other parts of the world, circus is not the cruel animal treatment that we have here in the U.S.
Right. So it's a little bit loose.
They just have
it's a different definition.
They just have
there,
Gracie's
obviously.
in cages.
So these that had been happening since the 1900s.
Okay.
They're the Gracies actually were involved in putting on the circuses originally, and so
they're kind of like carnies.
Yeah, they're circus people.
That's even scarier.
So they would they go travel around. They filmed it. They got all this popularity and stuff like that. And so when Horion came over and was talking to Art Davey, they were like, okay, let's put it on. They needed a pay-per-view component, obviously, because there was no way that they could put it on linear TV because it's too graphic. So there was only 3 different people that were carrying pay-per-view during that time: HBO, Showtime, and this other company called SEG. Okay. HBO and Showtime passed because they said it was too violent. So, right. Now that you think about it and you go back and you're like, HBO, you could have had UFC this whole time.
Yeah. But I mean, Showtime is known for their boxing.
That's correct. Both of them were actually known for their boxing.
Yeah, I remember growing up, my grandparents had Showtime and HBO because my grandpa wanted to watch the boxing.
Exactly. So SEG was kind of like them, but they actually were more experimental. They actually, do you remember watching blooper videos when you were a kid? Do you ever remember they would always show Jimmy Connors versus Martina Navratilova? It was Battle of the Sexes. It was the one sport that you had a man versus a woman.
I don't remember that.
So I vividly remember that as a kid because I thought it was hilarious. That Jimmy Connors was a pretty decent tennis player, but I think he was a little bit older and maybe was just being sexist and trying to be funny at the time. But he challenged Martina Navratilova to a tennis match, and they build it on NBC. It's this huge thing, Battle of the Sexes. They used to have wacky stuff on TV. If you didn't know, they used to have their anchors competing in different sports competitions with actual professional athletes. And
we didn't have the 24-hour news
we had
cycle.
crazy shit on TV. So to see Jimmy Connors, a man, play tennis against Martina Navratilova, a woman, she dusted the shit out of him, by the way.
I believe that.
So anyways, they were the ones that put that on.
Okay.
And so they were SEG was kind of into that experimental shit. But here's what I thought that was very cool is the way that they pitched this Ultimate Fighting Championship to SEG, and what kind of had them sold is they were it's going to be like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, but in real life.
Perfect. We're going to summon them to the other realm.
Okay, so Mortal Kombat's based on Bloodsport and UFC's based on Mortal Kombat. So technically the UFC's based on Bloodsport. Boom. Jean-Claude Van Damme, UFC.
It all comes back to JCVD.
Yeah. So SEG was we'll take the real life Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And they got hurried to the Octagon design. So that's the other thing that I think that we take for granted as far as the Ultimate Fighting Championship is the fact that they actually designed an entire new fighting surface and arena. So the reason that they went with the chain link is because they wanted to reduce the timidity of people running away from people in grappling matches. So if you were in ropes, you could just and you were in a grappling exchange, you could just fall out of the thing and they'd have to restart you. Or you could run, and
now there's nowhere to run. And also the 8 sides was very integral because it was there was the I forget exactly what it was, but the designer had this really cool reason for the 8 sides or whatever. But I think that is really interesting that not only did they base it on a video game, but they actually were we need to make sure that the surface is perfect so that way there's nowhere to run. Everybody can see there's plenty of space for every type of martial art, all that stuff like that. So I thought that yesterday I was on this mission of looking for what we should talk about. And it was just acai bowls equals Gracie family. Gracie family equals UFC. UFC equals, it's that just Charlie Day meme from Always Sunny where he's got everything and you're just
Pepe Sylvia and it all. You know what Pepe Sylvia is?
I don't think so.
So he can't read. And they live in Pennsylvania. So every single piece of mail that's coming in has Pennsylvania on it. Pepe Sylvia, Pennsylvania.
So when It's Always Sunny first came out, I hated it.
Oh.
But I had somebody who had it on DVD because it was back before streaming was everywhere. And I sat down and watched the first 2 seasons in one go. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I got through the first season. The second season, like, started getting better. And then I started watching more. And I was like, okay, like, I get this. I enjoy it. But it's one of those shows, like, it's so chaotic that it, like, I start getting kind of stressed out watching too much of it. So I don't know a lot of the Inside Always Sunny jokes.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's really funny, but I can't watch a lot of it because then I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, it makes me feel some sort of way.
It makes you feel violent and dark.
Yeah, it
and
does.
Also, it makes you feel like you're an addict.
Yeah, just like, oh,
you're a scuzz bucket addict. Yeah. Darkness, so. And that's probably says more about us than the show.
But. Yeah, but yeah, I have a hard time like watching more than one episode at a time.
Yeah, so that's there's kind of my history lesson for you today. Acai Bowls UFC 1 Gracie Challenge. When we were talking about UFC 1 just a little bit, I know what you have here, but I was gonna just go to this this thing.
Skip any of my notes. Just 5 a.m.
The first UFC was actually quite different than the current UFC. The first UFC they allowed, they said it was no rules, but the rules in the first UFC, I believe, were no fish hook, no eye gouge, and no biting, I think. Let me double check that.
Biting was allowed. Everything else, no.
No, but they, what? Yeah. Soccer kicks were allowed. Shoes were allowed.
Yeah, I remember, like, when I first started watching old UFC, I was like, dude's wearing shoes in the octagon. Is so
combat
weird.
Boots.
Yeah. Like, what the hell? Truly like Street Fighter.
Let's see here. Dead air.
Uh-oh. Sorry, I had to yawn.
Is that your shoe?
That was definitely my shoe.
Hey, so it's not the
Oh, the fire alarm. No,
not the fire alarm.
That was my shoe. I'm not much of a Nike guy, and I found these Nikes at a thrift store for like $6.
Nice.
In great condition. And I've noticed that they like squeak. And it makes me think of that like early 2000s Nike commercial where like every time I wear them I squeak them somewhere.
That's what's up.
Again, like I said, not really a Nike guy, so do all Nikes make that sound? Yep.
Basketball.
They do.
So UFC 1, they advertised it as there are no rules, but there were in fact some rules.
No rules,
biting.
Just right.
no biting, no eye gouging, and no groin attacks.
Wait, groin attacks. Got it.
Yeah.
No kicking in the balls.
But then in UFC 2, groin attacks were unbanned.
So you can kick them in the balls. Number 2.
So anyways, the evolution of the rules have been kind of like a funny / interesting thing to see because like you said, if you were a fan from the very first UFC, now there's just so many rules. And, UFC 1 had rules, 2 changed the rules, 3 changed the rules, 4 changed the rules. It wasn't until you got to, I think UFC 21.
Lucky number 21.
No, UFC 28, actually.
Lucky number 28.
Yeah. So UFC 28 had the New Jersey State Athletic Control Board sanctioning its first UFC event, meaning that like the first time that the UFC had a sporting commission actually sanction it as a sport. Right. But then UFC 31 had what we know as the weight classes that are realigned to the current standard. So it wasn't until like UFC 31 that you see the current rules, the current weight classes, and the current judging and criteria. So you have those first 31 events that were just like kind of buck wild. If you have UFC Fight Pass or if you have YouTube or whatever, you can go back and check out those events. They're a little bit crazier than what the current rules are. And so some things we don't talk about, if you've never watched mixed martial arts or UFC and you think that it's, just barbaric or whatever, so here are the things that you can't do in the UFC. You can't headbutt.
Yeah.
You can't eye gouge.
Yeah.
You can't bite.
Yeah.
You can't pull hair.
Yeah.
You can't fish hook.
Yeah.
No groin attacks. No pee-pee attacks. You cannot put a finger. Ready? Brace yourself.
You cannot put a finger into any orifice or into any cut or laceration on any opponent.
So you can't finger those eye flaps.
Nope. No finger in those eye flaps.
Damn.
I thought this one was funny, and I didn't think about it until just now, but no small joint manipulation.
So like fingers and
Yeah,
stuff,
you can't
toes.
like grab someone's finger and be like, gah!
You can't wiggle somebody's toes. This little piggy went to the market.
You can't strike to the spine or to the back of the head,
That's
aka
good.
rabbit punching. Now, this number 10 needs to be changed. Whoever does Wikipedia editing, get on this one, nerds.
You can edit the Wikipedia. You have the power.
I'm not a nerd. I just said nerds get onto it. I'm not a nerd.
Somebody tell the nerds.
Yeah,
Alert
the nerds. Striking downward using the point of the elbow. This is called the 12-6 elbow. This is a rule that this week has been proposed to be changed. And that's important. We'll come back to that here in a second. So 12-6 elbow. Remember that. Now you cannot throat strike. No throat striking of any kind.
Can't go for the throat rips of the turkey.
No grabbing the trachea.
God. Oh man, what's McGruber gonna do when he hits the UFC?
You cannot claw, pinch, or twist the flesh. No clawing.
But so that also means you can't give me like purple nurples.
Yeah, or that. What's that one?
Oh,
horse bite on the back.
No,
Oof.
I don't like
My
that
dad
one.
used to do that to me. Oh
I
God.
don't like that one.
Yeah. You cannot grab the clavicle.
Okay.
No grabbing the clavicle. You cannot kick the kidney with the heel. You have to use the toes.
Coming for that kidney with my toes.
You cannot spike an opponent to the canvas on the head or neck, aka pile drive them.
This isn't the WWE.
You cannot throw an opponent out of the ring or the fenced area. If you can, that's amazing.
Impressive, yeah. Like, just pick them up over your head and throw them out.
Now, these next couple of ones are, this one right here in particular is going to play in a part later on this evening. You cannot hold or grab the ropes or the fence. Okay? You can also not hold the shorts or the gloves of the opponent. The reason I say that might come into play later tonight is because Leon Edwards is guilty of doing both of those things. He is very cheeky whenever someone tries to take him down. He's a big fence grabber.
Yeah.
And he's got this technique where he grabs it and lets it go real fast. So like he times it so well where like the momentum of them going down, he like grabs it, stops it, and then lets it go. But he also, if you can see they slow down and like zoom in on his clinch work with Kamaru Usman. When Kamaru was going in on his single legs, you could see he was getting inside of his gloves and kind of breaking so Leon, don't cheat tonight.
No cheating.
Also, we're coming to you we're filming this and recording this Saturday, July 27th, the night of UFC 304. So that's why we're talking that way. You're going to hear this on Thursday. The fight will already have happened, so you can see if we're right or wrong, or
if there was any fence grabbing or
if there's any
getting
of
in
that.
those gloves.
Okay, back to the rules. You cannot spit at the opponent or the referee. Okay?
Okay.
No spitting. You cannot engage in unsportsmanlike conduct that causes injury to an opponent. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
You cannot hold or grab, what we talked about. You cannot use abusive language in the ring or the fenced area, which is crazy because I hear abusive language just about every week. So you cannot attack an opponent on or during the break.
Coming to your corner.
You're drinking water and then just out of the side, a kick comes in. They're like, breathe. And you're just like, you cannot attack an opponent who is under the care of the referee. You cannot attack an opponent after the bell. You cannot flagrantly disregard the instructions of the referee. Now this is a good one. Timidity, including without limitation, avoiding contact with an opponent, intentionally or consistently dropping your mouthpiece or faking an injury. So if you don't want to fight, just don't get in the damn ring. Interference by the corner. Now, this is an interesting one because I believe it was Sean O'Malley's corner. Yeah. Sean O'Malley, his coach Tim Welch, when they were fighting Aljo for the belt, Sean's coach Tim shouted at his opponent, "It's time to go, Aljo, it's time to go," pretending to be Aljamain Sterling's coach, baiting Aljamain into like throwing and going into a combination so that Sean could counter him. So he said, "It's time to go, Aljo. It's time to go." And Aljo started going, but it was because he wanted Sean to counter him, and they knew like when he was trying to get him to go, quote unquote, he knew what he was going to do from there. So there should have been a little look into that interference.
Yeah.
There's video out there. You can see it and hear it. You can see it and see his mouth going, "It's time to go, Aljo." So there's no like, no, that wasn't him. You can't throw in the towel during the competition.
Okay.
So when people do that, I guess that's technically a foul, and you're disqualifying your own opponent. But I didn't know that you couldn't do that.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Because I hear the commentators say, throw the towel in, whenever it's like the referee's not stopping it, he should stop it or whatever. You can't apply any foreign substance to the hair, body, clothing, gloves immediately prior to or during a contest or exhibition that could result in an unfair advantage. Now, this one seems weird because there are some cutmen that are very liberal with their application of the grease and like the whatever they put on their face beforehand. I mean, I've seen sometimes where you see John Jones go in there and he's just like Vaseline up to the gills. It's like he's got whiskers of Vaseline almost. But then you see them use that and put it on their gloves and like kind of like put it places. I don't get that. You can't do it, but they do it. If the referee has signaled that the opponent has been knocked out, striking an opponent who is helpless as a result of a previous blow and so supported by the ring or fenced area that he or she does not fall. I don't know what that means.
So if they get like knocked out and they're still standing up against the fence or something.
Yeah. You can't strike deliberately at the part of the body over the kidneys. Also, I don't know. Do they specifically show you where the kidney is on the body and be like, don't heel kick here and don't punch up here on top of that part? So strange.
Yeah, that's weird.
And then lastly, intentionally spitting out the mouthpiece, which is covered under timidity. But so the rule changes that the commission is talking about is the 12-6 elbow. The reason that I thought that we should talk about that is because we just saw our friend, a friend of the show, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, lose because of a quote unquote intentional 12-6 elbow. It was actually called a no contest, which is bullshit. If you go back and watch that fight, our friend of the show who sidekicked our third co-host, Kevin.
I have an aside to this after you make your point.
Yeah.
I forgot something.
He needs to go back and appeal that because he was winning that fight.
Yeah.
Obviously, clearly winning that fight. And that should be a dub on our friend of the show's record. So please, Mr. Al Hassan, appeal that loss with the commission as soon as the rule changes in November. Your point?
It only has to do with Mr. Kevin O'Malley.
Oh, okay.
He brought a photo and I forgot to bring it. So I would be,
it's because of that 3 hours of sleep.
I was literally like just trying to get myself out the door, but we do have a photo of Kevin for when we do these video episodes. And he isn't here. Exactly. We got a perfect shelf for it. But so that Kevin will always be here in spirit as the third.
Speaking of visuals, if you're taking a look at this here, we have a poster. My friend and supervisor / boss, DJ Bruzy, will be at Gusto's right across the street every Friday of the month. He's going to be spinning some hot wax for you there. This flyer poster, so fire. Love it. He's a good graphic designer as well. So the other person I think that should take their case up with the commission is Mr. John Jones. He only has one quote unquote loss on his record, and that was to Matt Hamill. He pieced up Matt Hamill for like 4 rounds. It was like a clinic on striking. And Matt Hamill is no schlub or anything like that. It was like he was a good fighter, is a good fighter, whatever. Like it just was like very clear that John Jones is a superior striker and wrestler and grappler. But at the end, he was cutting him up with some elbows. And one of the most hated referees, who is no longer with the UFC, or I don't think any commission, Steve Mazzagatti, was refereeing. And he stopped the fight for a 12-6 elbow, stopped it, took a point away, and then like the fight was over because he asked Matt if he could continue and Matt said no. And so they disqualified John Jones for an intentional 12-6, and actually Matt Hamill has the win.
Bullshit.
Yeah. So John Jones is like actual only loss, even though Steve Mazzagatti was only quote unquote taking a point away.
Yeah.
because the opponent couldn't continue, he was disqualifying John Jones for that intentional elbow. So John Jones, as soon as that rule changes in November, you and Mr. Hassan, you do a class action lawsuit and get your wins back on your record, because that's some bullshit. I went back and watched the John Jones, Matt Hamill elbow last night just in preparation to talk about this. Even Joe Rogan, I'm having a Joe Rogan experience. Even Mr. Rogan was commentating that fight, and during that fight was saying that rule was bullshit, that the 12-6 elbow does not do any more damage than angling it off to the ear or, a slicing elbow this way. Like, it literally was a crappy bullshit rule back when John Jones lost. It's a crappy bullshit rule now. They're finally changing it. So I think that's cool because, sometimes you have these staunch, like, we don't ever change the rules leagues or like whatever. It's like, I was thinking about the fact that like the Olympics are on currently and how like wrestling and boxing have been a part of the Olympics since back in the ancient Olympics, back in Greece and Rome and stuff like that. And how like, I wonder what their rules were like. You know what I mean?
You had to do it naked.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just had to. That's
dick tugging allowed?
Yeah.
A little dick grab?
No, it actually was I don't know if we talked about it here or if I heard it somewhere again. I don't know where I'm at right now.
Center. Fort Worth. Saturday.
I'm not sure.
9:30, 9 a.m.
But they used to wrestle in like loincloths, but a woman like snuck in and wrestled, or like they had stuff, and so they started wrestling naked to prove that it was men wrestling men. I don't remember where I heard that.
We're still fighting that battle to this day, aren't we?
I could be making that up.
You just made that up.
But I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere, is that was the original reason why wrestling was done naked.
Interesting.
I'm sure there were other reasons too. Like just dudes like rolling around naked with other dudes. I don't know. So
we're looking into why they wrestled naked, deeper dive into that, and then a deeper dive into what cookbook she stole the English breakfast from.
This is going to be a good episode 12.
Oh, man. You guys are going to hear. So there's another rule change that the commission is talking about, or it has talked about and is changing. So there's the rule right now is no kicking or kneeing to the head of a grounded opponent. And the definition of a grounded opponent was having a hand or a palm on the ground while you're on the ground in some form or fashion. So what you wound up having is people that were getting pieced up, and then as they're falling down and they're getting knocked out, they would just put a slight little hand on the ground, and then quote unquote they're grounded. So then you have like this like fighter that's having to make this decision in the split second of piecing somebody up. Like, no shit, do I have to stop my hand now that or do I have to stop my foot now that I'm headed to his head?
Yeah.
Because he's grounded, quote unquote. And it also just kind of, it gives a fighter a way of like taking the strike away from his opponent by simply just putting his hand down.
I don't like
and
that.
So there's 2 states where they actually said, fuck that, we're not doing that. I think New Jersey, you can kick them in the head if they have a palm on the ground. And I think
that sounds right for New Jersey.
And then like Montana or some shit like that. I think there's a couple of states that they're just like, we're not adopting the grounded opponent rule. And so then you had like, whenever you fought in those states, you had some fighters that were smart enough to know the rule and some that were still thinking they could put their hand down. And so they put their hand down and they'd just be like, dunk! And they'd be like, what? I thought it was like, nah, son.
Not here.
Not here. Not right here.
Not right
here, partner. Not right here. So you can no longer do that. These rules, I think, are going to take place in November to give the fighters, the referees, the judges, everybody time to learn, adjust, adapt, train, and get those new rules into their... So this week, every single reporter asked every single fighter on the card what they thought about it. And 100% of the fighters are in favor of these rule changes. So I think that's a good thing. You have fighters that are really excited to now, when they're on that top ground and pound, they don't have to worry about angling. They can just go straight up and down. When you're in that clinch situation, when someone's got you in a single leg and their head's right here, you don't have to figure out if this the ear, is that the ear? you can just go for it. Just go for it. Try to defend yourself. So cool rule changes. Let's see here. How are we doing on time? What we got here?
What time is it? How much time we got?
We've been talking for an hour, but that's fine. I've got plenty of time. I've got another hour before I have to open up shop. So you have on here rating your top 5 or Mount Rushmore of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Could be a recurring theme. Oh no, this is a copy and paste from another thing.
No, I might be. I don't know. I typed it out. I didn't copy and paste it. But it could have been in like an original idea.
Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Steven Seagal.
We could just
Chuck Norris, Keanu Reeves, Bruce Willis.
Going through like
Charles Bronson, decades, directors, production companies. Okay. All right.
If we wanted, like I was mostly just thinking like if we need time filler, throw that in there.
But I like that. Let's do top 5 Keanu Reeves today.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason I think that's a good one is because I just saw he was just on Colbert, I think last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. And this year is the 35th anniversary for Bill and Ted's Excellent Anniversary. It is
Bill and Ted's Excellent Anniversary.
Excellent. Good morning. We're here. It's the 33rd anniversary for Point Break. It is the 25th anniversary for The Matrix. I think 25? 20. 25th anniversary for Speed, 20th anniversary for The Matrix, and 10th anniversary for John Wick.
Yeah, because Matrix came out in 99, Speed came out in 94.
25 for Matrix.
25 and 30. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So Colbert listed all those off, and these are all anniversaries for Keanu Reeves this year. I can't believe John Wick is 10 years old.
I know. Completely changed the way action movies happened.
So he asked him he was like, let's just do rapid lightning round. He stole our lightning round. Colbert, people love to steal our shit. Fuck you, Stephen Colbert. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll fight you in the octagon. Just let us know when.
He was like, let's do some lightning round, word association type things. And he was like, just tell me what comes to mind whenever you think of. And he asked him about those movies. And dude almost made me cry when he talked about The Matrix. I'm not going to lie. Really? Straight up and down. He said The Matrix, and he just he went. He's like, well. And then he just talked about it, and I was just like,
yeah,
I love you, Keanu Reeves.
The way he has changed movies over the last 25 years and even before that.
So let's do, what are your top 5? Let's do Keanu Reeves movies.
Yeah, okay. Number 1 is Speed.
Your number 1 Keanu Reeves
number
movie
one is Speed.
Okay.
Number 2 is The Matrix.
Okay.
Number 3 is Point Break.
Okay.
Number 4 is John Wick.
Mr. Wick.
And then I'd probably go Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Anniversary. It's a good top 5.
Yeah. I know Speed is kind of controversial, but Speed is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Speed is one of my, I would say, it is a sentimental movie for me, for sure. It's one of those first movies that my mom and dad were like, let's watch this together type shit.
Pop quiz, hot shot. Jan de Bont, who directed Speed, what else did he do? He did a whole bunch of shit. But he did a movie in the early 80s. I think it took, it started in the 70s when he started filming it, but he was a stunt coordinator or something on it. But they used real animals. And I'll have to look up the information on it. But, actors were mauled on set. I think there was one death on the set. It was some crazy shit.
Really?
While you do your top 5, I can look up this and we can come back to it. But yeah, the director of Speed, Jan de Bont, is a fucking maniac.
So I was just looking at IMDb, so I didn't miss anything, but I do see here that he is in development as the actor, producer, and writer for Berserker.
Oh, Interesting. Is it going to be a Netflix original since they love to make anime into
I don't know.
live action movies? I hope not. That was a joke. I really hope they don't do that.
I don't want to find the contact information. I want to see the Berserker information. Anyway, The
Jan de Bont movie I was talking about was called Roar, and it came out in 1981.
Okay.
Yes. And it took 11 years for it to finally come out. It was not initially released in North America. It was released internationally, blah, blah, but it was all about like protection for African wildlife. I know this has nothing to do with Keanu Reeves, but anytime I think about speed, I think about this movie, because of like just how insane the production on it was.
All right. Now that I've refreshed my Keanu Reeves, God, I forgot about that movie.
I was just going straight from memory. I'm sure if I would have looked up at like his filmography, I might have said things differently, but I was just trying to like.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you not pick some of these movies?
Yeah.
So personally, I'm gonna go Scanner Darkly.
Ooh.
5.
Philip K. Dick. Ooh.
Yeah. That movie had me in a chokehold.
Yeah.
Like for a good couple of years. Just
about
the rotoscoping and the just everything about that movie. I mean, Woody Harrelson, Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just good shit. Yeah. If you haven't seen Scanner Darkly. Yeah, that's a good one. So that's going to be 5 for me. 4 is going to be, I would say, Constantine.
Ooh, Constantine's a good one too.
I would say,
and you know that they're doing a sequel and he's reprising his role. Like and so that's super exciting. Or at least last I heard they were doing this.
Scanner Darkly, Constantine. Let's do Hardball for 3. I know that's not an action movie or has anything to do with anything, but I love that movie.
I don't know if I know Hardball.
Dude. You have to watch Hardball.
Okay. I'll check it out.
He's like either an alcoholic or a drug addict. And one of his community services is that he has to be a coach to a Little League baseball team.
Hey, you're a real upstanding citizen. Go hang out with these kids.
But they're like inner city kids.
Oh, I know this movie. Okay, yeah. I know Hardball.
The Cucumbas.
It is, you can watch it for free on Pluto TV.
I fucking love that movie.
Okay.
2, I'm going to go Matrix. And then 1, I'm going to go John Wick.
All right. Nice. You're not going to go with the replacements up there with Hardball?
No, Hardball for me is, again, one of those ones that's like, I remember watching it with my folks and it being one of those ones that, because like, growing up in a Christian household, you don't really get to see a lot of like secular shit. So like Speed for me was like, oh my God, that was like action, a little bit of romance, I mean, I think I told my mom, like, I was like, can you take me to the can you take me to the barber and I want to look like that.
Yeah.
Give me a Dickies jacket and a buzz cut and make me look like Keanu Reeves in Speed. Iconic. And I was like 10, you know what I mean? It was like, what am I doing trying to look like a grown ass man? You know what I mean?
Part of being 10.
Yeah. So Keanu Reeves, I think another thing that we forget that maybe that you have forgotten, because I forgot that he was in, he was in Parenthood.
I didn't remember that.
With Steve Martin.
Yeah. Dude,
that movie like was another like iconic movie from my childhood, because my dad would do he was on his guts and he was sliding on his guts and like that whole like the Parenthood. Yeah, he played he played like the boyfriend that wasn't supposed to be dating the daughter or whatever. The not good for that. He was in that. I mean, obviously he was Johnny Utah. Dracula. Remember Bram Stoker's Dracula? Yeah. Little Buddha. What you know about Little Buddha?
Don't know anything about Little Buddha.
You got to watch that movie, dog.
Okay.
Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. That's a good one.
I know this is a more rom-com, but A Walk in the Clouds.
I haven't seen that one.
Dude, Crush the Grapes. Crush the grapes. Dude, my mom and we loved a romantic comedy.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure. Devil's Advocate.
Yeah.
Get
Great.
out of here, bro. He's freaking talking to the devil.
Yeah.
Let's see. Like you said, Replacements. Animatrix. It says he was lost in translation. He was in Lost in Translation.
It's been so long.
No
since I've
way.
seen that movie.
Oh, I think it was just. Does that just mean he was thanked?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
He was just thanked. Something's Got to Give is a classic.
Yeah.
Classic. He plays like the younger man. Constantine, obviously, Scanner Darkly. Lake House, where he's like talking to his dead lady,
That
back and
one
forth.
I forgot about that one.
John Wick, obviously.
How'd you feel about the last Matrix movie? Did you see it? Did you bother with it?
The Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah.
I watched it. It's okay. I don't think that it should like be canon with the other ones.
It shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
I watched the whole thing thinking, oh, eventually it'll get good. Eventually it'll be good. And I told myself that for 2 hours. And like it felt like it was trying so hard to be like self-aware and meta, and I realized that it was literally just like a cash grab and like, hey, look at the studio meddling with everything and we're just doing this like for the money. And I got all the nods and the winks, but God, it was so bad. I was so bummed out watching that movie, hoping that it was going to get good. And then the credits rolled and I was like, damn, it never got good.
Damn it.
And I've gone and I've read reviews on it actually like in the past few months, because like maybe I need to give it another try. And it got like a 78 or something. Like critics seem to like not hate it across the board. And I was like, was I missing something?
It's a political thing.
But I can't make myself go back and watch it. Like I want to, but I just can't devote another 2 hours to that movie.
Have you seen all 4 John Wicks?
I haven't seen John Wick number 4.
John Wick number 4 made me cry. We were on a plane flying home, and I was like, "I'll watch John Wick 4 because I've seen all of them." My wife's like, "What are you crying about? It's a freaking action movie," and I'm just like, "You don't understand. There's a dog."
Yeah, I haven't seen the 4th one. I wanted to see it when it was in theaters, but I couldn't find the time for it, and it's also like around 3 hours long, which just kind of I was
just going to ask if you had a favorite one.
The first one, the first one is so perfect, and I feel like they get longer and more convoluted as they go on. Like the third one is fine. Like it's got cool stuff in it, but I feel like it's just so drawn out. Yeah. Like they're all great. They're all like insane, but I do feel like they just kind of like keep dragging it out.
I always get confused. Like, is it just a day or two, or is it like years, or is it like it's seeming like everything happens in like the course of a day or two in the movie, and then like the next movie starts like the way that the last one ends. Yeah. So it's like in real time. Is all this happening in the course of like 2 weeks? Really?
It sucks to be that John Wick. Like if it's just
also, does he have adamantium like Wolverine, where he can just like recover and just like
he's got adamantium bones and has the mutant healing powers.
Yeah, because that's always like whenever he goes.
Actually, I think he just takes cold plunges at the float company, and that's how he recovers and keeps fighting.
I always love whenever he goes to London and he goes to the sommelier for his guns, and the guy's like so proper, and he's like, perhaps something more robust, and he like has like this huge gun in his hand. So I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Maybe we'll go on next week and we'll talk about another one of these amazing people. But let's prepare. So let's pick somebody this week so that way we can prepare our list for next week. Let's do you want to pick? You want me to pick?
I'll let you pick, because I threw a bunch of names in.
I picked Keanu Reeves today, so that's why I'm asking.
I mean,
let's do Mr. Jackie Chan.
Fuck yeah. That's who I was going to pick.
I read your mind.
Yeah.
Tight. All right. So moving right along here, before we get into our predictions / preview for UFC 304 and wrap things up, I wanted to talk a little bit about mental health awareness. The reason being, kind of similar to what we like discussed at the top of the bill. Like, we always like to keep it real. We're broke AF, but we're also both going through like mental health, like not problems, but just like kind of like
life is hard.
Yeah, life is hard, and we're both constantly checking in with one another, and it just seems to be like an ebb and flow. And like I said in the last episode, I've got friends that have reached out to me about just like the way that things are, whether it's, you know, the economy and the fact that jobs are hard to come by, or the fact that like groceries are so goddamn expensive, or the fact that like if you have kids, you know, all of your money is going towards making sure that they're taken care of and thriving and surviving. And so when it comes to this podcast in particular, we do talk a lot about the UFC. We talk a lot about fighting and fun stuff like breakfast. Obviously, breakfast is good for your mental health. But there are, we talk, you know, fun stuff, but also like, let's like zoom in a little bit about this mental health situation. And I put 4 fighters on here. The reason that I put these 4 on here is because these are kind of more notoriously outspoken about what's going on with their mental health. And I think that the conversation in the UFC in particular was kicked off by Robert Whittaker. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know who Robert Whittaker is, he fights, he's an Australian fighter, or New Zealand. No, he's Australian. He's Australian.
I'm going to look it up just because.
Yeah, look it up.
Yeah. Well, you keep talking. I'm going to look it up because I don't want to offend any of our fans in Australia or New Zealand.
It's Australia. I'm almost 100% sure. But you look it up. So Robert Whittaker, he did an interview after
New Zealand, Australian mixed martial artist.
So where does he live now?
Oh, well, I think it only matters. Like,
he was New Zealand born.
Yeah, Australian. Okay.
Yeah, he fights out of Australia and also represents Australia, but I'm sure he probably promotes both.
Yeah.
But he had a couple of fights where he had the skid. Because he had been champion, he had been a champion previously, and then he had like this little like skid of fights or whatever, and then he had done this interview where he had really opened up about like his mental health and how he was feeling after his losses, and kind of like just kind of gave an update about the fact that he was needing help. And so, typically whenever you see these fighters, they're, very, confident, cocky, you know, whatever they put their self out there, to be, prize fighters, you know, so there's no fright in them. There's no run in them. There's just very little, when it comes to their mental health. There's obviously, you're not going to see them crying, or like, you're not going to see them like hurting. You're going to see them at their very best. And so, to see someone like Robert Whittaker, who is very stoic, who also like plays video games and isn't very like super like, he's not like Robert Smith where you like, you know, he's like walking around all emo all the time. Like, this man is like
teased out.
Yeah, he's
makeup
like
on. He's
a professional prize fighter who has like a streaming channel on the side and like just does him for the most part, and seemingly is very positive, but gave this very candid interview with the things that he was struggling with. And so he has kind of like a rivalry with Israel Adesanya. They fought a few times and traded the belt back and forth. And so, and Izzy is out of New Zealand now. And so that's kind of like their, you know, coastal rivalry there. But, the second that Robert Whittaker, kind of outed himself as someone that is struggling with mental health issues, Israel Adesanya was very quick to step out and say that he too struggled with mental health issues and even has a therapist. And so it kind of took it at that step further, where it was like, oh, not only is the guy who's kind of like on the downward skid of like things, like seeking help for his mental health issues, but the person that is like riding the wave on the top of the world is also struggling with mental health issues and is even in therapy. Yeah. And so I think that it's very important, if you're a fan of the UFC, if you're a fan of combat sports and martial arts, I think that sometimes that we get pegged as like meatheads or like douchebags, or as like, you know, like even if you lift weights at all, or if you do anything physical, you're kind of considered like a knuckle dragger or whatever.
But it is literally to keep the demons at bay is why you're training to fight or why you're lifting weights. It is literally for your mental health. And if you don't get those things, it can really mess with your mental health.
For sure. And so it's funny that you say to get the demons out, because the next fighter that I had on my list that is a very big, outspoken person when it comes to mental health is Sean Strickland. Now, he's the opposite of the Robert Whitaker Israel Adesanya. He very candidly said that he doesn't think that therapy will help him, and that he knows that training and physical exertion is really the only thing that will help him.
I mean, everybody is different. And I, as someone who has been to therapy, someone who has been on antidepressants, literally the only thing that really works for me is lifting weights, doing something physical, when I'm in a hole. Like that is the only thing that pulls me out.
I think that that's good self-awareness. And I think that sometimes people like look to him as like, I mean, he's like sort of like a Trump guy. Like I said, he's like a Trump guy. I think he wore a shirt that said, a woman in every kitchen, a gun in every hand, or something like that. That's his kind of like brand of humor / politics. But even he himself, recognizes that, like, I think that his exact quote whenever it came to therapy, it was like, oh yeah, tell me about your repressed childhood memories. And he's like, all that's going to do is make me want to put a gun in my hand and go kill somebody.
Yeah.
He's like, so the best thing that I can do is get myself into a gym and roll around with some people and hit some bags and like get myself to the point of exhaustion so that way. But he also like really candidly spoke about how like he like gets into these dark holes, blows up on like people that he loves a lot. And then a week later, after having some of that physical exertion and having some of that time, he realizes that he needs to go back and apologize to these people. And like, so like the guy that like everybody thinks is like MAGA scumbag, even he has like his points of like, everybody gets to that point of like, I need some help, you know? And so I thought it was good to talk about the two that said like, oh, I'm in therapy, I need help or whatever. And then to also talk about the opposite side of that of like, even if you're not in a point or a place of like seeking help with therapy, or you can still get your endorphins going. You can still get some of those natural drugs flowing from your brain, serotonin, endorphins, oxytocin, all that stuff.
All the serotonin.
Yeah, that comes from, that physical exertion, giving yourself I don't want to do something, making yourself do it. Yeah. That floods your brain with all of that good stuff that helps you with some of these problems. So the final fighter I wanted to speak of, which leads us into UFC 304 tonight, is Paddy Pimblett. The reason that I kind of wanted to bring that up when it comes to this current card is because his interview with Sky Sports is being kind of weaponized against him whenever it comes to the media and it comes to comments online. So he basically told Sky Sports in a very candid interview that 5 weeks ago, his coach was going to pull him from the fight because his coach saw that he was like mentally not fit. And he said that he knew that he like was not there. He almost himself was like considering not fighting because he just mentally wasn't there. And so he has made it a very outspoken mission of his to talk about men's mental health in particular, because he's lost training partners to suicide. And so the last time he fought in England, I think somebody from his gym had killed himself like maybe like 2 weeks before that fight. And so he dedicated that fight to that person and made sure that his post-fight speech was very heavy on like, if you need help, please reach out to a friend. So this current fight this year, another member of his gym killed himself about 5 weeks ago. So it was around that same time that Paddy was like in training camp. He lost another member of his gym. And so it's kind of when you're in that situation, it's kind of seeming like you're like, what do you do? And so he told Sky Sports that he reached out to this place. I think it's called Jane's Place, in where he lives in London, and reached out and asked for help, and is seeking therapy and getting help from the same people that he had seen the first time whenever he was talking about that. And so that interview really got me, man.
Yeah. Mental health is super important, and especially among men, like, we don't talk about our feelings enough. A lot of us were raised not to, so it's super important, and it's cool seeing, like, again, like you said, meathead, people who are perceived that way, talking about their feelings, talking about their mental health, talking about the help they're getting. It's hard out there.
So the thing that I kind of wanted to, like, full circle it is that now that he's doing, like, 304 press, that's all that anyone's talking about is, like, you almost pulled out. Is your head in this fight? He has to answer that question over and over and over again. And then you did this interview about mental health, blah, 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 blah. Like, where are you at now? And he's, like, having to kind of, like, revisit. And so it's like, I say that because it's like, he gave that interview and, like, that's all well and good. But, like, now it's kind of being shoved back into his face. And now the comments are being brought up and shoved back into his face. And it's like, on the video for Sky Sports, you have people telling him he needs to kill himself, telling him that, like,
Internet's a fucking cesspool.
I mean, and so
if
for
you
someone
live in the comment sections, go fuck yourself.
So for someone that is Patty's age, where, we know that the comment section is a cesspool, but someone that is coming up that, like, is 20 something, it's a little bit different. So
I know. Anyway,
if you are struggling, please reach out to somebody. Give me a call, 682-294-0101. Give us an email. We probably don't have the resources to help you if you're struggling in an emergency. But if you need a friend to talk to that's also interested in breakfast and or violence, we're here every week, obviously, even when we've only had 3 hours of sleep. So
we got to stay the course.
Yeah. So
sleep or not.
Looking forward to tonight's card. If you are in Manchester, England, this card is happening at like 3:00 in the morning. So that's really weird for them.
Super weird.
If you're in the United States, it's happening at like 9:00 tonight. So good for us, bad for them. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and then we'll just get as we go. So we have Shauna Bannon versus Alice Ardilan. Ireland versus who knows. I think she might be Russian, because sometimes they do that whenever there's no flag. They're just like, they're from a country. You know which one. So
there are 2 different ones that you wouldn't want to put a flag on there right now.
I think Shauna is obviously going to be the favorite because Ireland is close to Manchester. So I'm just going to go with Shauna Bannon just because. Then we have a heavyweight battle. You got Mick Parkin versus Lukas Brzeski. You got Polish Power versus English Power. Look at those odds.
Yeah. That's close.
That's a pick'em fight. Basically, you don't know who's winning here. But this one is, if you want this guy to win, you're going to get paid. So if you put up $100, you get $225 on top of your 100 if he wins. So he's going to be your underdog. He's going to be your favorite. Mick Parkin, you can go favorite since it's in England and he's English.
Right. I feel like,
This guy looks pretty crazy though.
He does.
And he's got 2 Z's in his name. Lukas and Brzeski.
Yeah, the Polish.
I'm going to go Mick Parkin. I'm just going to go just favorite. You going to go Polish Power?
English pride.
Okay.
No, that sounded bad. Take that out. I honestly, I don't know.
It's just fun. It's just for fun. There's no money involved here.
No, we'll go Mick Parkin just because that's what the odds say I should go with.
All right.
I'm a safe better.
Next in the welterweight division, we have Sam Patterson versus Kiefer Crosby.
I like the way Kiefer Crosby looks.
He looks he
looks mean. And
Kumite ready.
Yeah, and Sam Patterson
looks like a nerd.
I know. I'm going Kiefer Crosby on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kiefer Crosby on this one too. We're going with the dog. All right, now this one, flyweight bout. Mohamed Mokayev versus Manal Kopp. Yesterday at the weigh-ins, this dude didn't even step on the scale. At the ceremonial weigh-ins, this dude didn't even step on the scale. He just rushed out to try to get in this dude's face. And it was like pandemonium. You had Dana and all the security guards like pulling them away and stuff like that. So this one's going to be, these people hate each other for real in real life. So I'm going to go Mohamed Mokayev.
Sure, I'll go with that too.
Just because I think he's got that.
He looks mean as fuck. I'm scared of that.
He was like, I'm not even going to weigh in. I'm just going to go straight to attacking this man here. So I'm going to go with the mad person in that fight. And then the last fight in the early prelim is going to be Orban Elliott versus Preston Parsons. This dude's head looks like he's wearing a football helmet, but it's underneath his skin.
I was going to mention
Mega
something.
Mind over here.
Damn it. We're talking about the comment
He
section.
is
We're just as
ahead
bad
of the game, if you feel me. I'm going to go with him just because I'm making fun of him. And he's from Wales, and that's kind of hometownish.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Orban Elliott as well. Preston Parsons. Yeah.
PP. No good. No good.
No PP.
All right. Moving right along to your prelims. We've got Modestas Bukauskas versus Marcin
Prachinio. He's Polish, so it can't be that Italian.
Praknio.
I'm going with the Lithuanian fighter.
Okay. I'll go with Marcin just to mix it up. Then you've got a bantamweight fight of Jake Hadley.
Why does oh man, I am drawing such a blank. Why does Jake Hadley look like if Joseph Gordon-Levitt had a really hard life?
Isn't it?
If he only ate boiled food and never got that third rock from the sun roll, this is where he would be.
Yeah. And he's fighting Cowlin Loughran from Ireland.
I'm going Ireland on this one.
That dude looks trapped out.
Yeah.
It's like a triangle on his neck.
There is no neck. There's only traps.
All right. Then we have a women's strawweight bout between Meatball Molly McCann. What? That's her nickname.
I didn't know that, but I was like, you're calling her a Meatball? Damn.
No, that's her nickname.
Okay.
That's. She's actually very fit.
I can tell.
Yeah. Meatball Molly is going to fight Bruna Brazil. She's from Brazil. Her last name is Brazil.
I'm going with her. Brazil on Brazil. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Meatball only because she's lost the last couple of her fights, and I think she's due for a win. She's typically paired with Patty on the same card. They're kind of like a funny duo. They're like brother-sister energy, and they also like rival football teams. So it's always funny. She bought his newborn baby a rival football kit for his newborn baby. He's like, that's going straight in the trash. You know,
I love that.
Yeah, they have cool energy. They always do fun interviews. They have, so I'm gonna go with her. Just like I said, she's lost the last couple of her fights. I think she's due for a good one. And then finally, your feature prelim is going to be a featherweight bout between Nathaniel Wood and Daniel Pineda. Now, Nathaniel Wood is very heavily favored.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's for a reason or if they just set up this Daniel Pineda kid to get like beat in front of his hometown crowd or whatever. But you're looking at you have to put up $425 to win $100 for Nathaniel Wood to win. Whereas if you put up $100 for Daniel Pineda, you'd get $330 on top of that 100 back. So this might be a good money line. Like if you just want to put $100 on Daniel Pineda just in case he pulls out the upset, you get
can I borrow $100?
Yeah, no, I literally do not have that much money.
Yeah, me either.
All right, I'm gonna go Daniel Pineda for some money. This is gonna be our money bet right here.
Yep.
All right, moving up to the main card, you have a featherweight bout versus Arnold Allen and
Giga Chad.
No, Giga Chikadze. Giga Kick. I'm gonna go with Giga Chikadze. He's got a signature move and momentum behind him, and I think Arnold Allen is not going to be able to keep up with him. Then we have a middleweight bout between Christian Leroy Duncan and Gregory Rodriguez. Sorry, Brazilian Rodriguez, not Rodriguez. I'm gonna go Christian Leroy Duncan from England.
I'm going with a Brazilian again.
You're gonna go with Rodriguez.
Yeah.
All right. Back to who we're talking about, mental health awareness. Mr. Paddy Pimblett is fighting King Green. Paddy will not call him King Green. He says his name on his birth certificate is Robert. So he will call him Bobby.
Is he dead naming him?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Paddy.
I know Paddy.
Mental health buddy.
I'm gonna go with Paddy to win. I think Mr. King Green is, while his fighting style is erratic and a little bit hard to contain, I think that Paddy, if he gets his hands on him, it is game over because Paddy's wrestling, grappling is just top notch.
Yeah, it's insane.
So I'm going to go Paddy to win.
Yeah, I'm going Paddy too.
We've got two co-main events here. The heavyweight interim title belt. So do you know why there's a heavyweight interim title belt?
I'm sure I do, but go ahead and tell me why.
So John Jones holds the heavyweight belt,
mm-hmm.
but he will only fight Stipe Miocic, mm-hmm. and they're waiting for them both to be healthy enough to have this fight. So they had to have like an interim belt, so that way, they could actually not hold up the division or whatever.
Yeah.
So Mr. Tom Aspinall has the interim belt there. Curtis Blades, he's a really good fighter.
Yeah.
I've never seen him get like straight up like mollywop killed. Like he's like gotten caught a couple of times. Like one of my wife's least favorite highlights of all time is Derek Lewis uppercutting Curtis Blades, and he just immediately starts snoring. But that was like in the fourth round, and they had a very competitive back and forth for the most part. So yeah. I just think that this is going to be a good fight. There's a lot of underestimating Curtis Blades. Another person that is very vocal about his struggle with not necessarily mental health, but he has a speech impediment. He has a very heavy stutter. And so he's been very vocal about being a reluctant face of the UFC, a reluctant spokesperson for the UFC because of his speech impediment. But I think enough people in the industry have kind of championed him as like someone to be like, look, man, you're doing it. You're living that life, And so I think that Tom Aspinall is going to go ahead and retain the belt. I don't think Curtis Blades has enough to take it away from him today. What do you think?
I want to see Curtis Blades win.
Okay.
Let's do it.
You know what his nickname is?
What is it? Razor Blades. I like that.
Yep. And every time he fights, do you know like that like internet thing where like if you say razor blades, you're saying razor blades in Australian or whatever? Razor blades. Anyways, every time he fights, my daughter is like, razor blades.
I love that.
Yeah. Finally, the last fight of the night, welterweight title bout is going to be between champion Leon Edwards and opponent Bilal Muhammad. This guy right here says that he has this like whole 3-round narrative for what he wants to do to that guy. He's like, I want to wrestle you, and then I want to look your corner in the eye, and then I want to beat you up, and then I want to let you up, and then I want to
like sounds really romantic.
Yeah, it's like this like love note for what he wants to do to Leon.
I want to see his dreams come true, his romantic dreams come true.
I have a very soft spot in my heart for Leon Edwards, so I'm going Leon Edwards.
I think Leon Edwards would win, but I want to see.
But you want to see this dream come true for Bilal?
I do. I want to see him like make that eye contact, wrestle around, like just have that romantic moment with Leon.
So once this episode drops, you will immediately know if we're right or wrong because this is going to happen tonight, and this episode will come out on Thursday, like it normally does. So I kind of like that about our podcast. We're making pretty bold predictions for fights that are happening, and then Thursday we're immediately wrong. I love that. And we're talking about just drama that it like immediately changes the second we get out.
By the time it comes out, it's already done.
Excellent. I think I'm good. You good?
Yeah.
You feel good?
I feel great.
You feel great? You want to go home and go sleep?
I'm going to go home and go to sleep for like 3 more hours and then go to work.
Yeah. Nice. I'm going to set up to sell some Jordans. And then if you're listening to this, you can't come tonight because it'll be too late. But I'm DJing at the Boiled Owl down the street tonight for the Through Being Cool event that Jason also, my boss, also puts on there every third Saturday of the month. Yeah, come see that if you have ESP and you're listening to me talk right now.
Do you have any other DJ gigs coming up?
Let me think. I thought I did, but I don't think I do. I think this is it. I don't. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you very much for joining me this morning. It's been a broke boy episode, but
we did it.
we did it.
Episode 11.
Yeah, we're here.
We're cranking them out weekly.
Boom. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on another exciting episode of Breakfast of Champions.
And we'll have to figure out a Patreon soon so that we can make some money. We should get something like hey, donate to our breakfast.
We should make a this is how you become a house husband cookbook situation. Like, because you know how like most of our wives make a lot of money, and
we could plagiarize it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what most people do now with ebooks. They just copy and paste something, put it in an ebook, and then put it on Amazon, and they're like, "Buy my ebook."
We really need, like, I see those people like, buy me a coffee, like different. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, of course.
So it should be like, buy me a breakfast.
Yeah,
and then hey,
sponsor our breakfast foods.
Yeah.
If you're a restaurant out there and you want to provide us breakfast so that we can review it and talk about it on this podcast that reaches millions of listeners all across the world, hit us up. Breakfast of Champs at breakfastofchampspod@gmail.com, 682-294-0101.
And if you would like to donate monetary funds to feeding us for less than a cup of coffee a day, you could feed two podcasters.
You too could feed 2 podcasters that
can
have too many
watch us
jobs.
Eat. If you want us to mukbang it, just put it in the comments.
Yeah. I'm down. I'm down to clown.
Same.
All right, brother. Have a good day.
You
Take
too.
care.
We're
Everybody,
out.
see you later.
Bye-bye.